Hey class, so today I wanted to go through our HL topic B5, which has to do with talent identification and development. So in your notes, you'll have to fill a few things in. And so I'm going to go through the important parts. So when we talk about talent, talent is a multidimensional concept identified by characteristics that are only partially genetically determined. So some of the makeup is from your parents, but other parts happen because of your environment, your motor skills, and what we call our trainability factors. So when we look at talent, we can look at talent by just plain what's called traditional talent identification, or we could look at multidimensional talent identification. So in the traditional setting, it includes subjective assessments and objective testing. So subjective assessments are going to be what the athlete tells you they feel like. I'm a good athlete, or I have great talent in sprinting. Well, you might be a good runner, but are you really a good sprinter? So then we validate that by identifying their talent through the different types of tests that we do, whether it's running a 40, running a 100, running a 400, just to determine, okay, is this person a sprinter? That's the basic talent identification. Now, multidimensional gets a little bit crazier. All right, so multidimensional talent identification, it recognizes that talent evolves over time. All right, the evolution of talent can be facilitated through psychological behaviors. And the psychological behaviors are listed right here. Some of these are what we went through in B4, which were goal setting, mental imagery, self-reinforcement, how you handle stress. All of those are what we call our psychological skill training sets. So when we look at multidimensional talent identification process, we look at how can they be resilient to cope with the challenges and the setbacks they encounter, along with interacting with their environment. So with multidimensional talent identification, the thing that we need to remember is that the athlete must have the ability to adapt. This happens over time. If they don't adapt, they're not going to progress and do well. All right. So the way they adapt is over time, by observations and figuring out what the strengths and weaknesses are through their psychological behaviors and their sport-specific skill set. Okay, so like for instance, I can run. I might not like to run, but maybe I'm a good runner. Okay, so then over time, if I'm really thinking I might have a chance at the next level of running, what do I need to do to market myself to be the best athlete possible? Do I need to train 400s? Do I need to train 800s? Or am I set up to be a sprinter where I really just need to look at 50s, 55s, 100s and not worry about the rest? Because there are some athletes that are just sprinters. There are some that are middle distance runners. And then there are some athletes that are long distance runners. All right, so when we look at talent identification, we can actually look at this and talk about TOK in with it. And I want you to take a moment to look at the question and the statement here with TOK. And then I just want you to think about, how does this relate? Okay. As we move along, we look at the evolution of talent. in athletic development. Athletes develop over time. You don't just wake up one morning and think, oh, I'm going to be the next LeBron James, or I'm going to be the next Eli Manning. It just doesn't happen. So you have to develop. And this development of elite athletes goes through 4 main stages. These stages were thought up by Bloom and Coate, who are well-known psychologists in understanding stages of development of individuals, whether it be just general overall development or athletic development, or even just educational development. So they look at these 4 stages that each athlete goes through: the initiation stage, the development stage, the mastery stage, and the maintenance stage. So as they go through the different developments, they have different psychological behaviors that come into play, like coach interaction, parent interaction, versus self-determined motivation. They also notice what are the participation goals. Are we participating because we have to? Are we participating because we enjoy the sport or the skill set? So when we're looking at athletic development, 4 stages. In these stages, the athletes encounter opportunities, obstacles, and progressions. So these are things that either get in the way or help the athlete in their development. So opportunities. Do we have opportunities to train with special coaches? Do we have opportunities to have workouts in the afternoon? Do we have opportunities to better ourselves, whether it's free or you have to pay? Do we have these opportunities? Other things are obstacles. Like right now, for instance, with COVID-19, one of the big obstacles is kids can't get to the school. Kids can't work out regularly at the school. So how are we overcoming these obstacles to be ready for the next sports season? Okay, so that's an obstacle when we're looking at athletic development. Yeah, some athletes are taking advantage of being able to maybe go walk or run or do push-ups, sit-ups, and then you have some athletes that are sitting on their booty doing nothing. So those are going to be obstacles in our athletic development and talent identification, right? And then the next one is progression. Are our athletes from 8th grade going to be ready transitioning into 9th grade for the next stage of their athletic ability? Are our seniors, if they're playing in college, are they going to be ready to go into college sports? So when we are developing as an athlete, we are faced with different situations, and our psychological behaviors and how we are made up will help us to cope with these unstable periods. All right, moving on to talent transfer. Talent transfer, this is the last little section for B.5. Talent transfer for elite athletes. Basically, why would an athlete want to transfer out of their sport? Okay, so talent transfer, it happens when there's a reduction or cessation of participation or stopping the sport to pursue another sport that involves similar skills. Okay, so that could be, let's say, as a gymnast, you just get tired of being a gymnast and you still want to be active, but you don't want to do that anymore. Well, gymnasts have great body awareness. So one type of talent transfer for them could be maybe to go and do the high jump, or maybe go do pole vault in track. Or maybe they don't like track, maybe they like swimming, so it'd be go and do swimming and diving because they're used to the momentum of the body twisting and turning. They understand body awareness. So that would be one thing with talent transfer. Sometimes it's prompted by injury, sometimes it's loss of motivation, right? Athletes will transfer sports to prolong their sporting career. Okay, they want to stay active, so they go find an activity that doesn't hurt their body if they're doing it because of injury issues. So when we change sports, sometimes we'll go through the 4 stages that we looked at before: initiation, develop, mastery, and maintenance. We typically go through those pretty quickly as we change sports. And that's because we have the capacity to use our psychological behaviors to respond, and we have improved motivation. So we're going to want to do the new activity because it's new, it's fun, it's not boring, it doesn't hurt our bodies. So those would be reasons why we would have talent transfer. Okay, so that is the end of B5, talent identification and multidimensional talent identification. The next video segment I will do later in the week will be on option B6, which is self-determination theory and self-regulated learning. Now that we're done with this, for B5, you do have a discussion board open in Canvas for you to look at and for you to respond to articles. If you have any questions, let me know.